Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about cannabis tech capital investment, as well as a declining investment on the CBD Biotech side, which might attribute to Quebec launching grams as low as $4.49. On the line with us is Dan Kimmis, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products.
What the heck, though, Chronic?
Yeah, prices coming down. People are backing out. You know, we've seen some ETFs retrace 60%. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. But that's what happens when you have a mom and pop retail investors flooding the market with speculations. They're going to pull their money out. It's not buy and hold. There's not institutional investors in these individual equities. And so, of course, it's going to be volatile. But right now, software is the hot thing in cannabis. Earlier in the year, we kind of saw the technology investment being like the number two behind multi-state operators and in front of real estate being the marijuana lounges. But there's been a lot of investment into cultivation. But some of the software investment has been, accurate dosing. So we'll see if this article kind of talks about some of that technology and accurate dosing.
But, here's the thing. We've been all over the planet. We've been round and round. And one of the things that, touch the plant at your risk. Personally, I'm a believer. Technology, content, all of those things, I think, are viable ways to be in the cannabis space without standing there holding a sack.
So on October 15th, Forbes declared, quote, investors are pouring money into the marijuana software and highlighted the Denver-based Flow Hub, which just raised $23 million to expand sales of compliance and point-of-sale software to cannabis dispensaries nationwide. And so this article goes on to say that cannabis sales are soaring over $10 billion in 2018, projected to quadruple over the next 4 years. And Flow Hub isn't the only company cashing in on the cannabis specific software. They talk about PitchBook, which is a venture capital database. They found 39 venture capital deals involving cannabis software in 2018 worth more than $178 million. And this article goes on to say, quote, legalizing has opened doors for many businesses, especially startups, dabbling in the data and technology aspects of legalizing cannabis. So while it's still difficult to invest directly in legal pot through public equities, venture capital firms and private equity funds have raised hundreds of millions of dollars of investment dollars.
And, we've seen a lot of it spent, and a lot of it spent poorly, right? With some of the different, seed to sale ventures and some of these other things. But the fact is, there are some hits.
There's some good ones. Yeah, I think another flop is probably the payment systems. So there's a lot of payment processing systems out there that aren't working with the DFI or the Department of Financial Institutions. They're kind of more of a duct tape remedy. So when the Safe Banking Act passes, they'll probably be irrelevant. But I don't see a lot of them getting capital anyways.
Well, and again, one of the things that's neat about tech is that the stuff we don't even know they're working on, right? That's the thing that's so fun, is to stumble into a show and see something that's amazing, right? Run the lead down and go find out that there's actually a factory, there's actually a programmer, there's actually a development team, right? So I love the tech side. Again, can't say enough about it.
Yeah, I mean, it helps with what we're doing for advertising. There's a software company out there that helps connect cannabis companies seeking to buy advertising space with media outlets and other businesses willing to sell advertising to cannabis spaces. What we don't know, we just kind of covered a pitch deck last week on the Talking Hedge where they wanted to be the Leafly and they wanted to be the headset and they wanted to be the quick pay. And those companies already exist. And like you mentioned, there's so many other things that we don't even know that's out there. There's automation. I mean, that's an opportunity. So it kind of surprises me how many individuals want to fly on the coattails of somebody else and make it better rather than kind of come up with something new. Not really sure why, but I guess there's maybe it's easier to replicate than to kind of trailblaze.
Well, and from a sales perspective, there is something about saying, geez, we want to be Leafly and headset, right? Because they are market leaders. And at the same time, I would just, if I were investing, right, I think I would say to myself, I'm going to go look up Leafly and headset. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And maybe they're not offering capital, and that's why it's an opportunity. It's just a way to get some investors who would like to invest into Headset but can't because it's private. That's the only thing I can think of.
There you go.
So there's a lot of people that want to invest. You can see that in Canada. There's a lot of speculation that have pushed the prices way too high. And so you can see that when the eventuality of legalization in the US, there will be investment from retail investors, mom and pops. But right now we're seeing a shift away from CBD oil making biotech, kind of seeing that pummeled in 2019. And that makes sense. There was a lot of involvement with CBD. And then now that the FDA has thrown out a warning to Curaleaf out of California for making claims, and then Washington State and California banning CBD edibles and drinks. Of course, that's going to scare investment away. It's sort of natural.
Yeah, it costs it to, again, in the end, that money's going to come in. But slowing it down, moving some schedules around again, as you look at the, essentially the fourth quarter, it's slowing down. People are taking a moment. There's a little pause happening.
Yeah, the article is specifically about Epidiolex from GW Pharmaceuticals, and they want to turn a $100 ounce into a $32,000 product, for insurance companies. So aside from
pharma,
aside from big pharma, I think the shift that you're going to see is something like a rare cannabinoid like CBL, CBN, or CBG. There's a lot of other things that people will end up switching to. CBL apparently is really popular in Europe for inflammation medical purposes. I had never heard of it until I recently saw a documentary. So I'm going to have to look more into that. But yeah, the CBD played out. When it was 7,000 a kilo, made sense. Now that it's under 3,000 and it's still dropping, you're going to have to shift.
Oh, if you just deployed your capital to be a player in CBD, oh my gosh, right?
No doubt. But what about flower, right? Canada just had their rollout 2.0, so they can finally have edibles, beverages, additional concentrates other than just, CO2 and ethanol, I believe was the only solvents they could have. But so Hexco, as we were reported earlier, they have $125 ounces. That's $4.49 per gram. And so that's going to be quite the game changer, considering that the top 4 Canadian cannabis companies expect to have a going concern, meaning they'll be in operation as long as they can sell pre-rolls for $1.74. Excuse me, not pre-rolls, but just 1 gram of flower for $1.74. Now, not really sure how you can do that if you're selling retail at $4.49. Your investors are going to want a higher return on their investment, which means, and I've said this before, I think there's going to be a collapse from the early entrants that went to the Canadian capital markets expecting outrageous wholesale prices that won't hold in the eventuality that Mexico legalizes and the U.S. gets FOMO of that tax revenue.
Well, yeah. I mean, so let's just look at the timeline and the track on the whole Hexo gig. So, okay, over the last couple weeks, right, a bunch of bad news causing their stock price to crash, okay? Literally. So in the last week, further diving, on Tuesday of this week, they announced their new stash brand, okay, and drop it into the market, immediately staunching the flow, or the blood flow on the stock price crash. Meanwhile, the very next day, Wednesday, the analysts come back out and say, whoa, that's great, except you're taking too much money off the table. You shouldn't be selling ounces at $120 or $125. You should be selling ounces for about $220 right now, homie. Okay? They're price flutters. Meanwhile, I talked to some people inside the deal. They say to me, yeah, we don't have all that much weed in the supply chain. This is more PR than it is actual ability to sustain flow to our outlets. Let's see. Just how much weed do they have stacked up that they can sell at $100 or $125 an ounce? Let's see.
Yeah, time will tell. I've had a lot more calls about automated rolling machines up in Canada. I don't know if that's from the 2.0 rollout or just this release from Hexco. So obviously with the reduced pricing, you're going to have to automate whether you want to or not.
It's fall harvest, right? So it would make sense that, okay, if you got it right, you timed it out right, But at the same time, if you don't have the product to put in the supply chain, I mean, again, because that's been the issues to date.
Right. Consistency and having an available product on the shelf all the time and not just harvest season. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to help their stock price or not, but you'll have to come back to the Talking Hedge. We'll have our artificial intelligence algorithm with technical analysis. It's a weekly podcast that we do with Rohit Srivastava, Chief Investment Officer and Portfolio Manager with Saroj Banu Fund. And so today we're going to have a podcast where we review the stock market, see where it's going in general. There was a double cup recovery that just kind of plummeted. And so it broke new support levels and we expect it to keep going down. So check out that podcast later on today or tomorrow. With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.